Hello, it's James here from the Cynefin Psychologically Informed Wellbeing in School Communities team, joined by my colleague Dr. Rob Brooks. Thank you for taking an interest in this video. We wanted to spend this time to be able to tell you about the Cynefin team, the work that we do, and try and drum up some interest for being involved in our wellbeing networks, which will be starting in September. A little bit about the Cynefin team first of all. So we were founded in 2019. You probably or may have heard of us under our previous name, which was the Gwent Whole School Approach to Emotional Wellbeing team. But we've recently changed our name because the term whole school approaches is now being used by several other partner organisations that we work closely with across the region, and was often causing a bit of confusion about which team you were actually talking to that was working on whole school approaches. So we felt it was really important to come up with a new name that first of all distinguishes ourselves from other teams, but also reflects the values that we work closely with that underpin our other work that we do. So sit back and we'll talk you through some of the work we're doing, and by the end of it you'll be provided with an opportunity to sign up to show an expression of interest in working with us via a link to a form that Rob will share with you. We are a small multidisciplinary team of clinical and educational psychologists that make up approximately 1.7 full-time equivalent. And here's the team. We've got Gemma, who's a consultant clinical psychologist. We're joined by Dr. Charlotte Montgomery, who's one of our senior clinical psychologists. There's myself, James Cording, an educational psychologist, Ian Smiley, who's also an educational psychologist, and my colleague Rob Brooks, who's co-presenting with me here, who is also an educational psychologist. The aspiration for Wales is that we work together alongside our communities to create a healthier, more inclusive, and more equal society, where the emotional and mental health of young people is supported across the lifespan from the earliest possible opportunity and is the responsibility of the whole system, where the adults in children's lives are adequately supported and equipped to be alongside children in their ongoing development, and finally, perhaps most importantly, that the views and opinions of children and young people and their communities are central to the way in which we develop a whole system approach for wellbeing. Schools and educational settings have been clearly highlighted as key in supporting children's emotional health and wellbeing, and the necessity of for schools to be supported by partner agencies to develop a whole school approach to wellbeing. The Cynefin team, formerly known as the Gwent Whole School Approach team, was initially developed as a pilot project alongside our colleagues in education and social care. It was initially funded through the Transformation Grant, and the purpose was to support schools in their development of a whole school approach to wellbeing. More recently, we have received permanent funding via the CAMS in Reach grant. And what you can see here are the kind of key drivers which which are behind the team. So we've got the Gwent Marmot region, the NEST framework, the Welsh Government framework for embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental wellbeing. We align with the values of the new curriculum for Wales, the Estin Happy and Healthy report, the Welsh Government Mind Over Matters report, the ALN transformation process, and the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. We're now going to take you on a journey through the fascinating work of the Cynefin team in embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental wellbeing. When the project started, the team was faced with several questions. What is a whole school approach to wellbeing? What should it include? How can it be measured? What difference does it make? We were curious about the answers to these questions, and we set out to find them. Our literature review revealed some interesting insights. Firstly, there is little evidence-based work on whole school approaches to address well-being. Secondly, the term well-being has become so commonplace and widespread that it can mean both everything and nothing. This has led to misunderstandings and confusion for schools about what they should be doing to address well-being across the system. But what we found particularly interesting was the fact that schools are complex and unique systems where no one size fits all. These complex systems require complex and unique approaches that fit the needs of the individual community. It is not a one size fits all solution. Moreover, the evidence base suggested that whole school cultural change takes time. It needs to be at every level of the system and is not a quick fix. With this in mind and in line with the NEST model, we wanted to ensure that the approach we developed, whilst drawing on psychological principles, was also co-produced with school communities. We had to start by asking communities what was important to them. We began meeting with the schools where there was reported good practice around wellbeing to find out what they were doing and, most importantly, how this was impacting upon the members of the school communities. These listening exercises became the fundamental underpinning principles of our model going forward. We found that embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental wellbeing is complex and multifaceted as a process. It requires careful consideration and co-production involving school communities.
Before going into the schools, we began by reflecting on our experiences as both students and professionals within school communities. We drew upon the factors that we felt had impacted on our own well-being, and also the well-being within the schools that we've worked with. It's through this early discussions that we developed the guiding principles of the Cynefin Team that you can see listed here. Positive engagement and connection, collaborative partnerships, noticing, hearing all voices, understanding unique communities, building on opportunities, and using curiosity as a driver for change. Equipped with these principles, we headed into schools to hear what they had to teach us about the whole school approach to wellbeing.
We were given an opportunity to spend time in our school communities with a film crew and ask them what's really important for them in terms of their emotional wellbeing. And here are some examples of what they told us. This trailer that you'll see now forms part of a longer 1-hour film that we use as a training resource.
In the whole school approach in Gwent, we see emotional well-being as something which is for everybody. So it's not just about the mental health needs of the small percentage, it's about the emotional health and well-being of the whole school community.
There's over 500 people in the school and I still felt like I was one of the important ones when I had the attention.
Wellbeing is at the heart of everything we do. We deal with people, we work with children, with small people every day, but we also work with the staff in the school. And you're only going to get the best out of the children if the staff feel they have high levels of wellbeing and they enjoy and feel rewarded in what they're doing.
Mr. Davis took me to his classroom and he told me some very funny stories which made me feel very relaxed and calm when I was down in the dumps.
When I feel upset, the teachers ask me what's wrong and they are always there to help me.
And just seeing Miss Button with a smile on her face herself was really positive for me.
Unless children feel happy, unless they feel valued and liked and contented, we're never going to start getting close to the potential that they can achieve. There's not many people, if any at all, who feel down, upset, fed up, disliked, disgruntled, unhappy, but still they really perform really well and they give everyone else what everyone else needs all the time. It just doesn't work like that. So unless we get the well-being right, everything else really is never going to fall into place. It's such an important thing.
I don't worry about them at all, and I think that's, as a parent, that's the best thing that you can hope for.
I feel like people care about me because whenever I fall, they always pick me up.
The school gives us a voice. We can talk to people. We can voice anything. We can talk about our problems. We can talk about anything that we have wrong.
There's always someone to help you. This school is actually like a home.
It feels like a family to me.
There's something about the magic, I think, that gets created in a school where everybody's well-being is really attended to.
It was the stories we heard whilst making our film that enabled us to develop our understanding of what is making the difference to well-being within school communities. Through the creation of our film, we were able to capture over 130 people's voices and explore the common themes that arose in relation to well-being at school. We were then able to connect this back to literature reviews and existing research in order to develop an understanding of the 5 components of well-being that you see here. So we've got safety, agency, efficacy, love and care, and safety. A sense of safety is that feeling of being relationally safe, physically safe and emotionally safe. We've got agency, which is that feeling that you can contribute to your community and have autonomy and influence over your school experiences. Efficacy is about being able to achieve in line with our own hopes and dreams and of being able to achieve as a whole school community. So the way we kind of distinguish agency and efficacy is kind of thinking about choice and voice. We've got a sense of love and care, which is about feeling love for your community and the experience of feeling loved by the people around you and knowing that those members of your community truly care about you. And finally, a sense of belonging, that feeling of truly and feeling meaningfully connected to your school community. And at the heart of all the components is relationships, because in reality, you can't do any of the others in a meaningful, connected way without having meaningful, connected relationships. Welsh Government statutory framework on embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental well-being encourages schools to utilise an unbureaucratic cycle of inquiry-based learning to support the implementation of the whole school approach values that builds upon existing good practices. The Cynefin Team supports this through a cyclical process that supports organisational change, known as the spiral of inquiry. Supported by our team of psychologists, your school community will be able to develop their own unique wellbeing practices in line with the Welsh Government framework. At the heart of this image seen here is the spiral of inquiry, where you will see its 6 stages of the cycle. These are scanning, focusing, hunching, learning, taking action, and checking. These complement the Welsh Government framework in the following ways. So here we can see the scoping stage from the framework aligning with scanning. The action plan phase aligns with our taking action phase. And finally, the evaluation phase aligns with our stage of checking. The spiral of inquiry fulfills the Welsh Government's expectations of schools. It introduces these 3 additional steps through the spiral that encourages school communities to thoroughly consider what is going on regarding well-being in their community, ensuring that appropriate actions are taken and checked. One of the beauties, the beauty of the spiral is it really fosters and encourages the schools to be curious. It fosters this idea that the spiral is never complete, that we're always learning and always coming up with new questions. So we hope that by being involved with the Cynefin team and going through this spiral of inquiry, it provides an opportunity to learn a new way of learning about your school community.
Years have been challenging and our school communities have been greatly impacted. At Cynefin, we believe that people function better in safe, nurturing and connected relationships. This is especially true for children, but adults are also more able to learn, grow and flourish in environments that support relationships at the systems level. That's why we're excited to introduce you to our Spiral of Inquiry programme, which helps schools develop their inquiry practice around wellbeing and develop their schools' wellbeing practices in line with the Welsh Government statutory framework on embedding a whole school approach to emotional and mental wellbeing. Our team at Cynefin will work with your school to understand the core components of a whole system approach for wellbeing. We'll help you to develop your inquiry practices, support you in learning about wellbeing, while also assisting you in implementing these changes within your school community. But that's not all. Our schools come together in a safe environment every 6 weeks to learn from each other and to share their practice. Schools who we've worked with previously tell us that they've benefited from meeting with other schools engaged in this kind of work. And to ensure that you'll be fully supported throughout the process, you'll be allocated a mentor from the Cynefin team who you can connect with between the cohort meetings for guidance and support.
Hopefully that's whetted your appetite a little bit in terms of being interested in the working with the Cynefin team in September. Before we go on to giving you details about how to sign up with us, we just wanted to show you one more small short video, which is our colleague Charlotte Montgomery talking about how it's the little things that can make such a big difference in schools to improving emotional health and well-being.
The whole school approach to emotional wellbeing is such an exciting project because it's actually been born out of the experiences of people within school communities. So the components of wellbeing that we've identified as being important to school contexts, love, agency, efficacy, belonging and safety, are themes that we drew from listening to the stories of children and young people within schools, of teachers, of education staff and parents and carers. We know that there's a really good evidence base for why these things matter, but what we've not done before is hear from these school communities in this breadth that actually it's the little moments that are making the big differences. It's the little moment where someone notices you, where someone makes you feel valued, where someone really hears what you're telling them and holds it in mind for you, where you feel you're able to grow into your best possible self, but equally where when you're struggling, you know that you'll be held, you know that there are adults around you, whether that's a colleague or a teacher or member of education staff, who is going to respond to that emotional need, who can hold you in that communication and think about routes for you moving forward. It's not just about creating contexts where everything is okay all of the time. It's about creating contexts where it's okay to not be okay.
Thank you for listening to us while we share our project with you. If you'd like to sign up, we've got 30 school places available for schools in the Gwent region on a first come first served basis. You can secure a place with us using the above QR code. We also have an email address for any questions, and if you'd like just to keep us in mind, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Cynefin Schools. See you soon.